How can we promote values like courage, commitment, and sacrifice in our learning communities? What is the Medal of Honor Character Development Program, and how can it impact schools? Welcome back to a sponsored episode of the Teachers on Fire podcast, airing live on YouTube every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern. My name is Tim Cavey, and my mission here is to warm your heart, spark your thinking, and ignite your professional practice. Today's Teacher on Fire is Marilynn Alford-Walsh. Marilynn has been in education for over 30 years, teaching all grade levels from preschool through middle school. Today, she teaches middle school science, college and career, technology, and education courses. She's also been a national curriculum trainer for Medal of Honor Character Development Program for the past 13 years and uses the program regularly with her own middle school students. You can find out more about the Congressional Medal of Honor Society's Character Development Program at cmohs.org/lessons and the Path to Honor at pathtohonor.cmohs.org. Marilynn, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Are you, my friend, ready to light it up?
I am ready, Tim. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, and I'm so excited to get into this program and talk more about what it's doing for your learners. But before we get there, I love to start with story time. And as a middle school teacher, I know you know the value of stories. So would you share with us about a low moment or an experience of adversity that you faced somewhere on your personal or professional journey and describe how you overcame it?
Okay. Well, as educators, we always think that we're going to be in one particular place, and then we never know when we're going to be sent to teach in another grade level or at another school. And so that's what happened. I was asked to teach middle school after teaching preschool and elementary school. And I thought, I'm not sure how this is going to go because of the age levels. But when you're dealing with middle school students and their highs and lows and ups and downs, I was looking for ways to connect with the students, all about connections and building community. And I came across this program, the Medal of Honor Character Development Program, that taught values. And within my own curriculum of teaching science, you don't usually have pathways to be able to teach those core values. And so I thought this was something that I might be able to use, and it was a free resource. And so I got involved with it. And it allowed me to get to know the students on a much more personal basis because it helped me to see in from more of a social and emotional lens rather than just the education of trying to teach science. And that's where it's all about, was building those relationships with students through this program.
So great. So I want to get deeper into it. Again, we're talking about the Medal of Honor Character Development Program. Tell us what it is. What does it look like in a school setting?
Well, this is a free resource that was created by teachers for teachers. It uses Medal of Honor the Medal of Honor recipients' living histories to help support and students to make connections to the core values. It's based on 6 core values of the Medal of Honor, which are courage and commitment, citizenship, sacrifice, integrity, and patriotism. And so by using these lessons that have been written for teachers by teachers, we know that they've been tested and piloted. And it was something really important to me to be able to use something that other teachers had used and that had developed. And it's something that just developed over time.
That's really cool that this program and curriculum resources were developed by teachers. I didn't realize that. So that actually brings a little more meaning and a little more trust, right, for the teacher considering bringing it into their classroom or into their school. You mentioned the 6 core values, Marilynn. Let's go a little deeper on those. I think these are so great. Courage, commitment, sacrifice, citizenship, integrity, and patriotism. Let's just have some fun and talk about each of these values. I wonder, could you give us maybe a one-liner summary of each of these values and what they mean?
Absolutely, Tim. I can give you that, but with our students and with educators, when we do these trainings as well, we ask them to make the connections to those words. And so I'm not putting you on the spot because I can give you my one-liner, but it doesn't matter what it means to me. It matters what it means to you. So what does courage mean to you? And that's what we say to our students. What does that mean to you? How would you define courage or sacrifice?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, here we go. I wasn't ready for this, but
I'm
let's do
sorry.
this. Yeah. No, let's do this. I love it. This is
But we
this
do
is
it
good.
to the kids all the time.
Good pedagogy. Yes. So when I think about courage, Marilynn, I think about being willing to stand in the arena. I'm thinking about that famous quote. I'm thinking about being willing to face adversity. So it's not a lack of fear, but it's being willing to engage with the problem in the midst of fear.
Absolutely. Okay. And yeah, we tell the students all the time, you're going to be faced with things that you're not comfortable with in the classroom, but you do it anyway, right? And integrity.
Okay, integrity, I think about the metaphor of a bridge. So all of the parts need to be strong and they need to be intact and they all need to do their part. So when I think about integrity in a character setting, so transferring the metaphor, we want to be the same. We want to be consistent in every part of our lives and be true to our character. We don't want, I guess the expression is, you want to live the same way when no one is watching as when everyone is watching.
Absolutely. And it's something that we tell the students, your integrity is what represents you. So absolutely. What about citizenship? How would you define that?
Yeah, citizenship is all about mixing those rights and responsibilities. So we enjoy some wonderful rights and freedoms, but we're also responsible to each other, to our communities, to our country. And so that comes with service. And I don't want to spoil the other words, the other values, sacrifice, I want to say. But yeah, citizenship is all about contributing to the broader community around us.
Well, and that's what we tell our students. You can be a citizen, but what do you bring to your community? What do you bring to the group that you recognize, to be a part of? And fantastic. So how would you describe then sacrifice?
Yeah, well, a lot comes to mind when I think about sacrifice. I mean, I'm a person of faith, so I look to Jesus as an example of that. But sacrifice is simply doing for others what we would do for ourselves, and maybe putting others before ourselves in many situations as well, even when that's painful.
Yes. And we don't want our students to have to feel that. It's more of an emotional thing that we want the students to feel with that sacrifice. But when we talk about that, it's, sometimes just giving up something for something better in the long run, for the greater good, right?
Well, and at the age that we work with, I mean, I'm an intermediate teacher as well. Delayed gratification is so difficult. So that's what I hear in what you just said there. Learning to say no to self in the moment, right?
Yes. And, as the students are using this program, and that's where it's really exciting to see how they connect with the program and these core values. Again, it's not what these values mean to me, but how do you make those connections and how do you see them being displayed throughout your school, within your classroom? And what is your responsibility as a student within the classroom to help others understand those core values? So you have to live it.
You have to live it. And that's where I wanted to go next, Marilynn. First of all, how did I do? Did I do all right on the
You are, yes.
All right.
And, and with the students, they don't always know. They can give you an example, but they can't always put it into words. And so that's what's great about this program too, is you have the opportunity to be able to collaborate. The students are able to talk to each other. What does it mean to you? And what are some synonyms or antonyms for it? And then finding examples either in their everyday life or using those videos of Medal of Honor recipients to find, how did they show sacrifice? How did they show patriotism? And so that's how we get the students to start to make those connections. But more importantly, just connections within their own life.
Beautiful. Yes. Well, I know we didn't get to commitment and patriotism, but there's a lot there. Those are very rich values, and I can easily imagine how they could play out in the classroom. And as you said, just prompt all kinds of rich discussions and applications. And I'm thinking about the Freire model and other ways to unpack these terms. So you talk about living it out, and that's where I want to go next, Marilynn. In your classroom, you've seen this program play out many times, many years. And so talk about the impact that you've seen the character development program have on your students.
Okay. So that's the beauty of the program too, is that teachers use this as another resource in their classroom. And so the program gives me and other educators access points to be able to talk about these core values and to have those more personal discussions that would never come up in my physics lesson or my, chemistry lesson. So I use them, and our school has adopted them. So we're a 5 through 8 model. So it's a little bit different, but we use them in our advisory. And so the entire school is having similar conversations with the students, but it's at their level. So fifth grade has their discussion and on up, but we've really moved it into the students taking ownership. And by the time they've gone 5th grade through 8th grade, the 8th graders become Medal of Honor mentors. And so that program has evolved into something where they take the lead. They are supposed to be the leaders on our campus. And with us as educators not providing ways to learn how to be a leader, we can't expect it. So we've sort of trained them through the years to understand what the core values are, understand what Medal of Honor is, and then go in and mentor our 5th and 6th grade students and help them and support them with the lessons.
That's so great. And I'm a firm believer in entrusting our oldest students. I'm in a K-7 environment. And so for us, it's our 7th graders, but got to give those oldest students some level of responsibility and give them those opportunities for leadership. So I love the terminology of mentors, right? Because they will take that on. Many of them will do a great job of that. Thank you for joining us, Teachers on Fire. If you're getting value from this conversation, give this video a like. I hope you're enjoying what you're hearing from Marilynn Alford-Walsh on the Medal of Honor Character Development Program. Marilynn, I understand the program does more than just teach values. I was interested to hear that it also supports students' writing abilities and thought processes. Can you speak to these other benefits that we might not think of when we think of a values and character development program?
Yes, absolutely. So because it's written by teachers and for teachers, it's been written in how these teachers have been able to incorporate it into their own classrooms, because everybody says, it's always about time. And so what is the benefit? But you're going to see that the lessons have, they'll have an introductory part. They'll have that hook or tie-in to get the students involved. They'll have to write something or think about something, share something. And then there's a point where they're going to be reflecting on what they have just watched or discussed with students. And so there's always the writing piece. There's research involved. There's math lessons. There's music lessons. There's all different kinds of lessons. So it doesn't matter what you teach. You can find value and something to use within these pre-made lessons. And we always talk about not having the time and that energy. These have already been created for educators. And so you can use a part of it, or you can use the whole lesson depending on the needs of your class and your students.
So great. Well, I'm an English major, so English is always close to my heart, even though I don't happen to be teaching it right now. But I love hearing about how students can, when they write it, when they're actually reflecting on it, that's when some of these values and some of these ideas actually become a little more deeply embedded, right? And they actually start to own them for themselves. Tell us about the new Path to Honor. How do you plan to incorporate this aspect of the program into your teaching this year?
Okay, so with everything, this was something that was sponsored by Delta Airlines. And so it's something that allows students to do this on their own. It's kind of a discovery on their own of what would you do type of take. So the students will have some questions and then an introductory video. And then it stops about 2 or 3 minutes into the video, and it will give them some questions of what would you do in this circumstance. So they're watching the Medal of Honor recipient have to make decisions in the moment, and that's what we want our students to be able to do, is make those good choices or make those decisions in the moment. And then they get to go through and reflect and write about it and see how other people responded across the country that might be using it. And so they can say, oh, I responded in this way, because they'll have different prompts to be able to decide, would you go this way or this way or this way? And there's no right or wrong when you're in the moment, right? You just hope that you're making the right choices based on where you're at.
Kind of a choose your own adventure situation. And,
it is.
I can imagine some really fun discussions coming from that as well. How does the Congressional Medal of Honor Society help schools connect with recipients of the medal? That's really interesting. And what do the recipient speakers forums look like? How can schools take advantage of this?
Well, we are losing our recipients because of age and health. And so we only have 60 living recipients today. And many of them, I think the average age is 75, maybe it's older. But many of them aren't able to get out and to really travel or because of that. But they will be willing to do a podcast like this or a webinar or something, so we can do live interviews with recipients. And I've been able to do that within my classroom and share it with other classrooms. When we have the opportunity to do speakers forums or have an event like their convention, which was just in San Antonio, or Medal of Honor Day, which is in March, where they meet at Arlington National Cemetery, and they're at the Tomb of the Unknowns laying a wreath. They'll have other events and school outreach where they're able to go and go into classrooms or be in a forum for teachers to be able to bring their students or to be able to go in live. They'll have it through a video feed. So when there are these opportunities, I feel like teachers need to take advantage of it and really try to get their students to be able to be a part of it and to go. In February, we have a speakers forum at the Reagan Library, and that's in Simi Valley, California. And it's something that we've been fortunate to take about 100 students every year to participate in. But it's broadcast across the country. So even if you can't get there, you're able to participate that way.
Okay, awesome. We've got Josh Tovar, principal in Texas and Maryland. If you haven't connected with Josh, he's worth checking out. Just a fantastic leader. He says, buenos dias and greetings, amigo. He says, connect with me before I connect with you. Yes, absolutely. Just establishing contact and relationships with students proactively, I think is what Josh is getting at there. So thank you so much, Marilynn. I hear a lot of hope in what you're saying in terms of what the Congressional Medal of Honor program, character development program can bring to schools and how it can shape cultures in schools and give our students and young learners something to aspire to. And that's really exciting. I want to do a screen share now. So we're going to do as much description as we can, Marilynn, for the podcast audio only listeners, okay, as we go into this. But I'm going to put up on the screen the Medal of Honor Character Development Program. There we go. So we are at CMOHS.org. That's where you're going to start. And then, Marilynn, the first step or first stop for educators would be this tab right here, correct?
That is correct. That is the For Educators tab. And that is something that will give you access to, it gives you an overview of the program, gives you access to the lessons. What I had not shared is that we did have teachers that were elementary teachers coming to our teacher trainings that are 6-hour long trainings that help teachers understand how they might be able to use the program within their classrooms, at their school, within their district. And elementary school teachers are great because they'll take anything and make it their own. They'll be able to put it into kid-friendly vocabulary so that, the kids are learning what sacrifice means or integrity means, but they use other synonyms for it. And so we had then a group of educators that said, why not have lessons for elementary teachers as well? And so we had a group of teachers that came together and worked for about 2 years actively building lessons. And a lot of it's around their reading program, their literacy programs, but they use just little video clips of Medal of Honor recipients because the content is a lot more graphic than for younger audiences, but they made it their own, and they really just use those core values to embed lessons. But this was written for secondary and higher, beyond. I know college teachers are using it as well because the core values are for everybody. And so they've been divided up. The lessons are divided up by core values. And so you'll see the lessons there. You also see that they are also divided up maybe by the subject matter as well as by recipients. So if you're looking for a lesson because you're going to be talking about Civil War, you're going to be talking about more modern, events, you can go through the tabs, and it's been set up really nice to be able to navigate. Also, it gives you a time frame. So if you have 30-minute class or a 45-minute class or longer, it'll give you, approximations of how long it might take. But again, there's no one way to use the program. You use it how it fits your classroom because you are the expert in the classroom. You know what you need. There's also a citizen honors. So Medal of Honor recipients award citizens that have been nominated, just like Medal of Honor recipients are nominated by peers. People across the country can nominate someone that they feel have gone above and beyond or are part of a selfless service type of program. And we have the citizen honors as well that lessons have been written about. So it's a different content, but same idea of sacrifice and courage and commitment.
So, Rich, I'm really curious. I want to learn more about citizenship here with Pete the cat, but sounds like a fun one.
That's one of our elementary lessons. Yes.
Yeah. So, and that brings me to the it's not a paywall because they are free resources, but what do teachers need to do? Is it a complicated process to create this account?
Not at all. So we have, because we don't ask anybody for money, we don't, this is something that is all through private sponsors. We have the Arthur Blank Foundation that has provided lots of money. And we also have the buildsubs.com that have supported the Medal of Honor Character Development Program as well. So educators just go on and they put information in because they're trying to find out, the foundation, Medal of Honor Foundation, who's using it. So it's going to ask you what you teach, who you are, and then that's it. It's, who do you expect to be using it with and how? And so when you go in, you're just creating an account. Where do you work? And then it's just a free resource. So you have access to everything on the website.
Okay, so I clearly need to create an account here. And
yes.
I'm also aware that, Marilynn, that you are quite involved in training. You've been doing it for years across the country. So in terms of the training options here, tell us about those. For who would sign up for this? Would this be any teacher or building leader interested in bringing the character development program to their school?
Yes, absolutely. So we've had educators that are from, elementary through college. We also have administrators, counselors. We'll have support staff go because depending on how you choose to use it, it's an open training many of the times, or it's a a school or a district that wants to train all of their teachers, and maybe they use it as a summer professional development. It is a full day training where teachers are getting professional development credits, and then you can also get college credit as well for that. And the trainings are held wherever we have a request to come. So we need usually between 40 to 50 educators to make it worth the time for us to be able to try to go out and train them. And we bring all the materials, and we do a full day training. It's 2 educators that will come out and train who's ever there to be able to bring the program into their classroom. So if you want to have that experience and be live, and that's what I loved, because that's what I was introduced to at my training. I didn't know what I was doing, just asked to teach history for a while, and went in and found this training at the Reagan Library. But teachers can also look at an online training if they're not able to get out to a live training. And that is something that was developed for our more remote teachers, or maybe you don't have someone that can come in and cover a class, because we are in a substitute shortage as well. So you can look at that and see how you might be able to use the program and navigate through it in your classroom.
Okay. And I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but I believe the training is free as well. Do I have that right?
That is correct. So
okay, incredible.
When the program was established, when it was developed, they wanted to know how to get it out to the teachers. And they said, you have to offer it, but you can't charge teachers to be able to go. And so what happens is your substitute, you will get substitute reimbursement as well. And so that's another real big factor if you do have substitutes. But they have been doing that since the beginning, and they will provide lunch. So you get all the materials and learn how to use the materials. And sometimes you have the benefit of having a Medal of Honor recipient that joins if they're in the area and able to participate. So there's no reason not to try to sign up and go. And you're going to find some benefit to the resource. We also have the resource in book format, and it's something that we give to the educators, as well as another book that's called Choosing Courage, that has recipient short stories about what they did. And so that's a great one to use with elementary students as well, because the text is easy to read. It's probably a 5th, 6th grade level. And I have a whole set in my classroom, because students will pick it up and go, oh, I remember him. I saw him. We watched the video on him. So they're getting a lot of rich resources, as well as the online information.
A lot of rich resources available. Just incredible that all of that is free, and there is even substitute reimbursement available in some cases, it sounds like, which is just remarkable. So like you said, Marilynn, no excuses not to check this out or take advantage. And then finally, before we leave the website here, and again, with apologies to my audio only podcast listeners, we are at CMOHS.org. That's the Congressional Medal of Honor Society website. And then we are under the Educators tab. So look for that Educators tab. The last option I see here, Marilynn, is the Path to Honor. We talked about it earlier, and it seems like a pretty slick setup here. Is there anything that, when I click this Launch Path to Honor button, it takes me on a bit of a journey here. Is there anything else you'd like to say about the Path to Honor tab?
Yes. So that Path to Honor, I use it for the students too, the program, to be able to do it individually. They can work in pairs, but usually I ask them to do it individually. So if you are doing centers in your classroom, or students are finished early with some lesson, they can jump on Path to Honor, and it'll take them maybe 6 to 10 minutes to complete one lesson. It's very quick, and it's student-centered, and they see an introductory video. Once they've watched that, then they're not watching it again. It just kind of gives an overall 5-minute view of Medal of Honor, what it is. So if they've never used any other lessons, then they have an understanding of what it is. So if you are looking for something that's going to be introductory, great. Start with Path to Honor. It's free and the lessons are done. Teachers and you get to see the students writing samples. They get a certificate at the end that they went through Path to Honor for Courage. It's 18 lessons with those core values. And so on their certificate, they have their reflection written of what they wrote about what it meant to them in that. So everything's built around the curriculum and literacy and writing, and it's a fantastic program. So try it. If it's not for you, let your students use it.
Yeah. Well, I love the self-guided option that I just saw there. And as you mentioned, as you described, 18 lessons for students to go through. It's not turning things over to students, but there will be, as middle school teachers, we know there are certain times and contexts where that is very appropriate. And you've got those students ready to maybe take their learning to the next level, or you mentioned stations. There are different ways that you could use that. So I could see that being a very valuable asset as well, just to give some of your students that opportunity to explore these resources even further. We've got another comment from Josh. He says, nice, I missed it. Where does training take place? So I'll try to answer that, Marilynn, but basically, Josh, Marilynn and her training team, if they're assuming you've got other training counterparts, will come to you. Do I have that right, Marilynn?
That is correct. We will come to you. You need to have a facility for us to be able to present. And then you have the educators and support staff there, and we will come and train them. And it's free.
It's free. So Garland ISD, Josh, get to work connecting with your fellow leaders in that district in Texas, and maybe something may happen there. That would be really fun to hear about. Well, we are going to start to wind down. Oh, and Josh is wondering, Marilynn, would you even come to Texas?
Well, as a matter of fact, we were in Texas. We were in San Antonio, where they had their they had their convention. Medal of Honor recipients were in San Antonio just this past, I guess it was September, the end of September. But I did trainings in the summer to prep to educators for that. And so then they had a lot of recipients there. But we have trained all over Texas. So let us know and we can set that up.
There we go. All right, Josh, we just planned one of your professional development days for the coming school year. So you're welcome. And thank you, Marilynn, for sharing that. It's so refreshing. And again, I'm so thankful that you are a current teacher, because you will resonate with this. But it's so refreshing to find quality resources that are actually free. No strings attached. Almost everything we touch, it seems like, in education right now is freemium. So there's something dangled, but there's always a bigger ask around the corner, right? Well, as we wind down, Marilynn, I'm going to bring it back to you and hear a little bit more about your teaching and some of your preferences, and maybe some ideas that you find valuable that you might be able to share with my listeners today. So first of all, share about a personal habit or a productivity hack that contributes to your success and keeps your fire burning. Is there something you go to on the daily or the regular that helps you get it all done?
Yes, absolutely. It's called EduProtocols. Have you heard about that, Jim?
I have, yeah.
Okay. So those lesson frames that help kind of gamify and excite and engage students into learning. So these are lesson frames that you use repetitively with students, but you just fill in different content. And so it's easy for students to be able to navigate because they've used it. And it's something that engages students, and it helps them to remember what you're trying to teach, because it's a lot of repetitiveness if you're trying to do math facts or vocabulary, things like that. So John Carippo and Marlena, I had her name, but I forget.
Yes, it's on the tip
I
of my tongue
apologize.
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's those that, no matter whether they're in a language arts class or a math class, they are used to those frames, but it's just in a different content. So you have kids, if you do the Bukakucha, they're looking at those quotes and they're going through, and because it's kind of a competition, they're involved. And I just was introduced to something else this past week at my own professional development. Thankfully, my principal, who was an 18-year teacher and then went into being the principal, is always looking for things for the staff. And she brought this to us. It's called wewillwrite.com. And to have, it's in the beta stage right now, but to have kids ask to be able to write, when do we get to do that again?
Oh,
it's
my goodness.
phenomenal. So
yeah,
it's great.
Josh is still with us on YouTube. Josh Tovar says, John C. rocks. Absolutely. Again, if you missed it, John Carippa, one of the main figures there, and Marlena, and we'll get her last name in a few minutes after we're finished this conversation. But if you're not familiar with EduProtocols, friends, there we go. Make sure to connect with EduProtocols. They've got a series of books that are so practical, and that's a great pick. And recommend a book, one that you've been reading lately, perhaps, Marilynn, or one of your all-time faves that's been deeply influential in your thinking.
Yes. So I don't get a whole lot of time to read, but again, my principal has us reading The Shark and the Goldfish. And this is one where it's, are you going to be that shark or are you going to be the goldfish? Have you heard of this book at all?
No.
Okay. So Jon Gordon, he has these great books.
Oh, yeah.
They're quick reads, but it's something that we also did the bus book where it was positivity. Are you going to be on the bus or off the bus? Get on the bus, get on the power of positivity. But this one is great because the students all know that we are anchored in achievement. That's our goal this year, is to be anchored in achievement, to be writing, to be understanding that they don't get to sit back and just be spoon-fed information. They need to be the shark and go after it. So that's the idea of the book.
I want to double back to the EduProtocols. Brian on Facebook, Marilynn, has a question for you. He says, I will need to look into EduProtocols. Do your math teachers use it as well? Are there math applications? I believe that answer is yes. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes. In fact, there's a whole program for math. And so, yes, you can just plug that in, go in and do a quick search and Google search, and you'll find it. And you'll see math lessons on there already developed using EduProtocols.
Yeah, EduProtocols, truthfully, can transform your teaching practice. I mean, they are that powerful and helpful. Marilynn, tell us about someone. Now, I know you're not a huge social media person, but is there some educator that you believe is worth a follow? Maybe it's the authors of EduProtocols.
Absolutely. Yes. And they do have live trainings too. And that's something that I haven't been able to go to. But I think that it would definitely be worthwhile for sure. And then certainly people like you, Tim, because you are somebody out there that is promoting things that people have never heard about, and it works for educators. Educators are the best at taking other people's ideas or resources and making them their own, because we're all in the same boat, right? We're working together to help students become better citizens and be able to make the right choices and be able to survive in our world today.
That's right. Wow. Well, thank you. And I appreciate the commendation for sure. Now, normally at this stage in the conversation, Marilynn, I ask my guests how the teachers on fire out there can connect with you. I think you may want to point them instead toward the Congressional Medal of Honor Society's website. Do I have that right?
That is correct. Yes. Yeah. And if they are looking to do a professional development, that information is all there. They can connect with our home office. They can connect with Kathy Metcalf and those people that are in charge of setting up the trainings and looking at logistics of who can travel. We have trainers across the country. I think there's 10 of us now. So it doesn't always work out, though, with our school schedules because we're all teaching. We're all in the classroom using the program. And so depending on what our school schedule and bell schedules look like, will depend on who comes to you. So it might not be the person that's closest. It might be what works with the schedule.
Well, again, I love that this program has been written and vetted by teachers, so it's proven. The website is quality, friends, and the resources are large. So Take advantage, especially if your school or district is looking for some new values curriculum, some character development curriculum and resources for your students. I think you're going to have a hard time beating what I see here at the Congressional Medal of Honor Society's website. Yep. Well, thank you so much, Marilynn. This has been really interesting and inspiring for me. And I'm so glad, so thankful to hear that these resources are available for educators and schools, districts around the country for free, completely free, including training, which is just remarkable. Teachers on Fire, I'm your host, Tim Cavey, and I'm so grateful that you too decided to spend some of your day tuning into this video or listening to the podcast. I hope that in some way the content you heard today from Marilynn Alford-Walsh on behalf of the Congressional Medal of Honor Society sparked your thinking and ignited your practice. And I'll meet you next week right here on the Teachers on Fire podcast. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
You can still go, even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.